Coming up on a newscast. Nancy Pelosi held a phone with President Yoon and agreed to bolster strategic cooperation. The U.S. House Speaker also met with her South Korean counterpart and vowed to expand ties in various sectors, as well as in denuclearizing the peninsula. China begins large-scale military drills in retaliation to Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. Due to this development, South Korean airlines are canceling flights to the island state. Seoul's top diplomat held talks with his Japanese counterpart. The session was held on the sidelines of the ASEAN meetings in Phnom Penh. Hello and welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let's begin with our top story. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is visiting South Korea. She first met with National Assembly Speaker Jin-pyo to discuss various issues. Our Kim Bo-kyung starts us off.
As part of U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's Asian tour, she also visited South Korea. And a bilateral meeting with South Korean National Assembly Speaker Jin-pyo was the first item on her schedule. Held at around noon this Thursday, the meeting was immediately followed by a short joint press briefing. While saying the relationship between South Korea and the U.S. is a special one, Pelosi proposed strengthening ties even further. Three main pillars of cooperation underlined between the two countries were economics, security, and governance. Both sides talked about ways to expand ties in those areas in a way that would be interparliamentary.
We also come to say to you that a relationship that began from urgency and security many years ago has become the warmest of friendships. So when we come and we want to advance security, economy, and governance in an interparliamentary way.
And as part of efforts to further develop the two countries' relationship into a global comprehensive strategic alliance, they agreed to review passing a resolution to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the Seoul-Washington alliance next year. Kim and Pelosi touched on issues related to North Korea as well. While expressing concerns over the North's heightening threat level, both countries agreed to support efforts for denuclearization and peace.
Based on a powerful and extended deterrence against North Korea that our public can recognize, we agreed to support the two governments' efforts for denuclearization and peace through international cooperation and diplomatic dialogue.
Pelosi's trip marks the first visit by a U.S. House Speaker to Seoul in 20 years since the news started in 2002. After South Korea, the last stop for Pelosi on her Asian tour is Japan. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
President Yoon held a phone meeting with the visiting U.S. House Speaker. They reaffirmed the importance of the Seoul-Washington alliance and deterrence against Pyongyang. Yoon shares with us what was discussed.
South Korean President Yoon and U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi discussed the importance of Seoul-Washington alliance and deterrence against North Korea during their 40-minute phone call on Thursday.
President Yoon said Speaker Pelosi and her delegation's JSA visit will signal a strong South Korea-U.S. joint deterrence against North Korea.
Speaker Pelosi reportedly mentioned the need for both countries to uphold a rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific region.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the South Korea-U.S. alliance is crucial in many different aspects, but particularly that must be maintained from a moral point of view.
The 40-minute phone call took place while President Yoon is on his vacation this week, and Speaker Pelosi thanked the South Korean leader for taking the time. Seoul is accused of trying to placate Beijing after the U.S. House Speaker's controversial visit to Taiwan, but the top office denied any connection between its foreign policy and a failed meeting between Yoon and Pelosi. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
China officially begun large-scale drills in a retaliatory gesture following Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. Beijing state-run Global Times framed the exercise as a rehearsal for reunification by force. Lee Kyung-un provides a closer look.
Tensions rise following U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's controversial visit to Taiwan on Tuesday. According to Chinese state media, at around noon local time, Beijing had begun the military drills it had previously warned of as a retaliatory measure to the visit. The military exercises are taking place in 6 zones surrounding Taiwan. They will involve China's Navy, Air Force, and other departments. It will include long-range live-fire shooting and conventional missile strikes, which will exclude any nuclear warheads. China's biggest-ever military drills will last for 4 days until Sunday. China has been ramping up the drills since Tuesday following Pelosi's arrival. It also blocked some trade with the self-governing island, too. Beijing defined Pelosi's visit as political provocation and a challenge to China's sovereignty. As China sees Taiwan as part of its territory and insists it should be unified with the mainland by force if necessary. In fact, Taiwan Global Times frames the military drills as the rehearsal of reunification operations. Taiwan has put its military on alert and staged civil defense drills, while its ally, the U.S., has numerous naval assets in the area. Taiwan previously said it will strengthen self-defense capabilities and coordination with the U.S. and other allies.
Together, we will defend the rules-based international order, avoiding further regional escalation, while vigorously protecting the security of the Taiwan Strait and the freedom, openness, peace, and stability of the Indo-Pacific region.
Amidst growing tensions with China, Taiwan's foreign ministry also urged vigilance over cybersecurity following record number of cyber attacks on government websites. Young-eun, Arirang News.
2 local airliners are canceling flights to Taiwan after China began carrying out military drills in the area. Korean Air canceled flights between Incheon and Taiwan on Friday and Saturday, while delaying Sunday's flight schedule by an hour. Asiana moved up Thursday's flight by 3 hours and canceled Friday's direct flights to the island state. The company plans to monitor the situation before making decisions on operating flights this weekend. People who made reservations can either move their flights to Sunday or get a full refund. Flights to Taiwan with other airlines operating out of Incheon or Gimpo airports are operating as normal. The top diplomats of South Korea and Japan met in Cambodia on the sidelines of a series of ASEAN meetings. They agreed to step up efforts to improve bilateral ties. Min Suk-hyun fills us in.
South Korean Foreign Minister Park Jin on Thursday met with his Japanese counterpart Yoshimasa Hayashi in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, on the sidelines of the ASEAN meetings. It's already their second meeting in less than 3 weeks. After briefly holding talks with Hayashi, Park told reporters that they exchanged views about ways to improve ties, as well as pending issues and issues of mutual interest. He also stressed that they agreed to further accelerate negotiations, apparently in a bid to mend their strained ties. This comes as South Korea and Japan seek to resolve pending issues, particularly the compensation issue for victims of wartime forced labor. During their previous meeting in Tokyo last month, the 2 foreign ministers agreed on an early settlement, but no major breakthrough has been made so far. Seoul's foreign ministry on Thursday stressed that efforts are being made.
The Korean government is continuing diplomatic consultations with Japan to find a reasonable solution in line with the shared interest of the 2 countries, and we will continue to make sincere efforts.
At Thursday's brief meeting, Park and Hayashi also agreed to step up their trilateral cooperation with the U.S. amid North Korea's continued nuclear and missile threats. Meanwhile, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi were scheduled to hold bilateral talks during this week's ASEAN gatherings. However, Beijing's foreign ministry said the meeting will not be held as Japan, along with other G7 members, denounced China over its acts on the Taiwan Strait. The talks were called off amid mounting tensions between Washington and Beijing after U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's recent visit to Taiwan. Min Suk-hyun, Arirang News.
During meetings held in Phnom Penh, South Korea and the ASEAN members agreed to boost strategic dialogue to deal with regional challenges. China and Japan also took part in the sessions in a show of cooperation in areas of mutual interest. Kim Da-mi reports.
Seoul's top diplomat Park Jin says that summits between the leaders of South Korea, China, and Japan should resume after the last edition in China in 2019. He made the suggestion at the annual ASEAN Plus 3 meeting in the Cambodian capital, which brought together foreign ministers of the member states, along with those of South Korea, China, and Japan, to discuss areas of mutual cooperation. There, Park also pointed out the rising challenges that all the participating members face, including supply chain disruptions and the coronavirus resurgence.
The ASEAN Plus 3 is indeed well positioned to once again harness the power of joint action in dealing with new and emerging threats of this region.
His counterparts from China and Japan also noted current challenges like the Ukraine crisis, stressing the significance of the 10+3 mechanism as the main channel for cooperation between Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia.
With a view to the fundamental benefits and long-term happiness of the people in the 13 countries, we will uphold the momentum for the development of cooperation with ASEAN to achieve a new leap forward.
The ASEAN foreign ministers expressed gratitude for the three countries' support in tackling the pandemic and asked for their continuous support and knowledge sharing. Following talks with his regional counterparts earlier on Thursday, Foreign Minister Park Jin also said South Korea is going to upgrade its strategic dialogue with ASEAN to tackle regional challenges. He said member countries will be the center of the Yoon administration's new initiatives, given the region's growing geopolitical importance. Also topping the agenda were North Korea's nuclear ambitions, to which South Korea said it is still strongly determined to pursue the regime's complete denuclearization through diplomacy. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
The defense chiefs of South Korea and Australia agreed to enhance cooperation in the arms industry. Minister Lee Jong-sub held talks with his Australian counterpart as a follow-up to their meeting at the Shangri-La Dialogue. They agreed to conduct a range of combined military drills and highlighted the importance of 2+2 sessions involving defense and foreign ministers. On Friday, the two officials plan to visit Geelong, where Hanwha Defense is building a plan to manufacture self-propelled howitzers for the Australian military. South Korea and Belgium agreed to strengthen military exchanges and cooperation. The chairman of South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff met his Belgian counterpart to discuss security situation on the Korean peninsula. Michelle Hoffman congratulated Kim Seung-yeom on his appointment and said they should work closely together to enhance military cooperation. Kim agreed the cooperation is more important than ever amid the complicated global security situation. He also asked for Belgium's support in efforts to denuclearize North Korea and establishing peace on the peninsula, despite Pyongyang's continued missile launches and preparations for a nuke test. The Black Eagles took part in a major air show in Egypt, becoming the first foreign demonstration team to fly over the pyramids. The accomplishment provides a boost to South Korea's efforts to export the F-A-50 fighters. Bae Eun-ji tells us more.
South Korean fighter planes fly over the ancient pyramids in Egypt, leaving smoke trails of different colors. They also loop and spin across the sky to create the shape of the Korean flag, and then the shape of a heart. The Black Eagles, an air display team from the South Korean Air Force, took part in an air show in Egypt for the first time. They flew for about 30 minutes and pulled off around 24 different air maneuvers. This made them the first ever air demonstration team from another country to fly above the Pyramids of Giza. The Pyramids Air Show is usually only for teams from the Egyptian Air Force because access to the airspace above the 4,500-year-old pyramids for other countries' militaries is not easily permitted. The Black Eagles also conducted a joint flight with the Egyptian Air Force air demonstration team, the Silver Stars, to foster a partnership between the two nations.
It was great to see the two countries cooperate and perform at this air show.
The cooperation and Korea's participation in the Pyramids Air Show is part of the country's efforts to export F-A-50 light attack fighters to Egypt. The Black Eagles were using the T-50 supersonic trainer jets, and the F-A-50 is the light combat version.
I heard Egypt is very much interested in our F-A-50 jets to acquire them as their advanced trainer jets. All the local military officers are watching us perform, so if they see how well our aircraft can perform, I think they will definitely be fascinated by our T-50 series planes.
Earlier in February, Egypt signed a deal worth almost $1.7 billion with South Korea to purchase K-9 self-propelled howitzers and other support vehicles. The two countries are reportedly negotiating whether to sign another deal for the F-A-50s and ways to manufacture them in Egypt. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
The number of severe COVID-19 cases in South Korea reached the highest in over 2 months. Authorities believe the overall daily virus tally could peak to 150,000, lower than previous estimates. The Education Ministry announced COVID measures and guidelines for next semester and for the college entrance exam. Lee Hyun has the details.
The COVID-19 resurgence is getting worse here in South Korea. The country reported 107,894 new COVID-19 cases on Thursday. Although the number has gone down compared to Wednesday's tally, it's up 1.5 times compared to the same day last week. The number of critically ill patients stands at 310, up 26 from the previous day, and the highest in 2 months. Health authorities say that this latest wave could reach its peak of around 150,000 in mid-August. This new forecast is a little lower than the previously expected figure, which was around 250,000. But concern was expressed that the pandemic will prolong even further.
As time goes by, immunization will get weaker and there could be an emergence of new COVID-19 subvariants. The pandemic situation may change due to various factors as the amount of social contact is increasing as summer vacation season is here.
Meanwhile, all educational institutions, including elementary, middle, and high schools in South Korea, will run in-person classes in the fall semester. However, the Ministry of Education said schools will be eligible to flexible based on the COVID-19 infection situation in each area. There will be no need for students to take COVID-19 tests before going to school, but for the first 3 weeks of term, rapid antigen tests, masks, and hand sanitizer will be provided to teachers and students. All classrooms and school facilities will be disinfected daily throughout the whole semester. Universities will be back to in-person classes, but have the flexibility to go online in case of an outbreak. There's a new measure for students who takes the annual college entrance exam known as 수능 this year while infected with COVID-19. They'll go to special test centers instead of taking the exam in hospitals or residential treatment centers. Suspected cases will take their exams in separate rooms while sat 2 meters apart. The Ministry of Education said on Thursday that this is to guarantee fairness for all students. Lee Hyun, Arirang News.
The government will roll out measures to reduce costs for ordinary people ahead of Chuseok. With the Thanksgiving holiday coming up in September, the Finance Ministry will unveil details as early as next week, if possible. These measures would likely be for popular items like cabbage, apples, pears, beef, and pork. There are also plans to deploy supplies from stockpiles and holding discount events. This year's Chuseok comes earlier than usual. Last month, President Yoon told the finance chief to devise measures to reduce costs as the price of farm produce spiked due to heavy rain and heat waves. The nation's first lunar orbiter will blast off from Cape Canaveral on Friday. If the launch is successful, South Korea will become the 7th country to have a spacecraft explore the moon. Lee Seung-jae turns the spotlight to Danuri.
The Korea Pathfinder lunar orbiter, also known as Danuri, is now 1 day away from its historic launch. Launched via SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket, the lunar orbiter will be sent on its way to the moon from Florida's Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Around noon today, Korea Standard Time, Falcon 9 will be placed on the launch pad. While the initial launch was delayed by 2 days due to additional work that was required following the inspection of Falcon 9, SpaceX said that it has now completed all preparations for the launch. But the only thing that now stands in the way of the launch is the weather.
Things may change depending on the weather and weather forecast on the day of the launch. Even if there's no rain, thunder and lightning can occur at the launch site.
Danuri will be separated from its projectile about 40 minutes after launch, and then it will enter the lunar transition trajectory shortly after. After about 4.5 months, it will finally enter the moon's orbit on December 16th. Even though the launch was delayed by 2 days, the mission of reaching a point 100 kilometers above the moon will be achieved on time on December 31st. Then, for a year, Danuri will orbit the moon 12 times a day to carry out a full-scale scientific mission. With a total of 6 scientific instruments on Danuri, it will create the world's first polarization map of the entire moon, including surface particles and microstructures. Not to mention a map of the far side of the moon, or the lunar hemisphere that always faces away from the Earth. In addition, the lunar orbiter will try to find the best landing site for the upcoming Artemis program to test the world's first space internet communication. Researchers hope that the successful launch of Tanuri is just the very first step towards South Korea's road to an era of deep space exploration. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The Hangang Festival is back. It features summer events at some of the parks located along the iconic river in the capital. There'll be fun shows, aqua sports, and competitions for Seoul-ites to look forward to until the 15th of this month. Kim Hyun-sung takes us there.
The Hangang River flows through the heart of Seoul City. And it's the place to be this summer thanks to Hangang River Festival. One of the most exciting events is a king canoe tour.
Thanks to Hangang River Festival, people now have the chance to glide on top of the biggest body of water in Seoul on a canoe, just like I'm doing right now.
I'm excited and nervous. I think it'll be a little hard, but I think it'll be fun and great.
I came to the Hangang River Festival to ride in a canoe. I might fall in the water, but it still seems fun.
This canoe ride takes visitors to the most scenic views on the river. Canoers can also get sprinkled by water underneath the river's rainbow fountain.
It was so nice and cool getting sprayed by water. Usually, we have to go to distant vacation spots to ride a canoe, but it's so nice that we can ride it here on the nearby Hangang River.
This program and the Hangang River Festival remind people of the Hangang's beauty and the importance of this waterway. People are loving it.
According to officials, this tour was so popular it was fully booked only a few minutes after reservations opened. But paddling in a canoe isn't the only fun activity planned. The Hangang River Festival kicked off last Friday, and there are fun programs planned in all 11 parks that run along the river. And events will continue until August 15th, with fun movie nights, concerts, and classes for bike rides and water safety.
This Hangang River Festival is planned for all 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall and winter. And this year's summer festival has over 20 programs in 4 themes: water sports, exhibitions, challenges and experiences.
And for those who missed this summer's fun at the river, there's no reason to fret. Seoul City officials, for the first time this year, are planning to host a festival for every season, with events in line with a seasonal theme. So the festival fun will return in time for the fall leaves. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
The strong summer heat continues to bake South Korea. Heatwave alerts have been expanded to further parts of inland regions, and now the capital region is also under advisories. For parts of Daegu where warnings are in place, daytime temperatures will be blistering hot at 37 degrees Celsius. Such extreme heat will significantly increase the risk of heat-related illnesses. Avoid outdoor activities and drink plenty of water to stay hydrated. Scattered outbreaks of rain will become more widespread for tomorrow. Aside from eastern Gangwon-do province, the entire nation will see 5 to 60 millimeters. The amount of rainfall will vary depending on the movement of the rain clouds. Local downpours of 20 to 30 millimeters per hour are possible. Morning lows in Seoul, Gwangju, and Busan will all be kicking off at 26 degrees. Daily highs in Seoul and Daejeon will reach 32. Daegu and Gyeongju will be scorching hot at 37 degrees. For the time being, temperatures at night will struggle to drop below the 25-degree mark. On Saturday, the entire nation will see showers again. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.